All right, thanks for tuning in. We're going to talk about this guy. His name is Varnado Simpson Jr. All right, so this guy is one of the perpetrators at My Lai, Vietnam's My Lai, which is an absolute travesty of a right. These soldiers were getting ordered to shoot defenseless civilians and everything like that. The My Lai massacre. If you're this guy, if you listen to him, right, you almost get a almost feel pity for him, right? This guy's obviously very troubled. He takes all kinds of medication, and his son even died as a it's like his punishment for like this was a picture of his son over here. And anyway, his son. Anyway, watch the interview if you're interested. And you almost feel bad, this guy, and then he kills himself. Right. So what happened was that he went to Vietnam. The guys ordered him to shoot unarmed civilians and women and children and things like that. Right. And he just couldn't accept that he had done that, and he keeps a book of the pictures of the people that he killed, and he's there fidgeting, and he tried to kill himself a bunch of times, and then after this interview, he did kill himself because I mean this is a and I got some suggestion about the traumatized perpetrator, right? This guy here, you know we see this he just couldn't accept it, right? He couldn't accept what he had done. And if you ever read anything about My Lai, which is in Vietnam, it's absolutely insane. And you almost feel bad for the guy, but then you realize what he did, right? So the whole thing about this here is that he's traumatized that he did such a terrible thing. I don't know. I can't pretend I know what he's went through because I've never killed anybody. I would never kill anybody. And if I get let's say, for example, I'm in the army and I get, orders to kill unarmed civilians and women and children and things like that, old people and, even babies and things like that, right? Which happened, right? This actually happened. Their acts of killing and torturing unarmed civilians can develop into trauma, psychological wound, and then overwhelming feelings of guilt. Well, yeah, I mean, probably, but the everything on this YouTube channel is worse than all that stuff, right? Taking the life of a child at the earliest stages of at the development stage of implantation. I mean, how is this comparable? It's not, right? They're taking the life of a young child at the implantation stage is far worse. Okay, so you don't see it, so that's why you can't be traumatized by it. So you choose to you know consciously it's like a conscious blinding of your own self, right? And then anyway, these are the real killers. Anyway, they did a terrible thing, and so whatever this is, it's not very interesting. What's interesting here is that um he really could not accept what he had done, right? And for example, Dr. Michelle Dow killed more people, right? More people, and she's perfectly fine with it, right? It's incredible how just the stage of development, right? So basically, what we got is that the further along the stage of development these people are, if they can see them, but if they can't see them and they die, well then just because you didn't see them just doesn't mean it didn't happen, right? But it did happen, and for some reason we got multi the worst serial killer of them all, right? That killed I don't know how many. Right? It could be even up to in excess of 1,000 children. Right? In excess of 1,000 children. Right? It sends a shiver up and down my spine every single day that my family is responsible for the deaths of so many humans. Right? And then, so for example, yeah, now you got this guy. Okay, so let's look at this. It's very terrible here. Now this guy just couldn't accept what he had done, right? This is the story of this guy, and he just couldn't accept it, right? He couldn't accept it, and he really, he went in the army. They told him, this is your orders. You got to go in there and kill anything that moves, right? Anything that moves, you gotta kill. And there was a woman with her baby and everything. He killed children. I mean, and then he got completely, he couldn't accept it, and And that's for me, do I feel bad for this guy temporarily? When I was watching this interview, you watch this interview, you feel a little bit bad for the guy, but then you realize, what did he actually do, right? What did he actually do, right? The massacre at My Lai was not some picnic, right? It was a real thing. It really, really was. This was a direct order from the U.S. Army to go and shoot unarmed, women and children. Right? This is I don't really care that he feels bad or he's traumatized or anything like that. And it kind of it kind of irritates me that Dr. Michelle Dowd doesn't feel bad at all. She's loud and proud and attends social events and gatherings and she's so arrogant about it. Yeah, I'm an abortionist. I don't care. I'm a pillar of the community. Everybody loves me because they blah blah blah. It's irritating, but also I don't care. Like let's say for example that she were to say, you know, oh, I feel bad for doing this and also I'd be like, you are still a depraved lunatic criminal. You deserve to go to prison for the rest of your life, right? This is a depraved criminal, right? Under see that's the thing, right? You got these governments and okay, there's a contrast. Okay, here you got the government, right, which is the army, right? So the army of the United States Army is telling these people to go into My Lai and shoot armed civilians, right? This is a pretty terrible documentary, right? And this guy is explaining how he just got the orders and he said, okay, maybe it's not right, and then he shot a couple of people, and then after that he was like, well, this is my orders, and he continued killing and killing and killing, right? So this is the government, giving him a basic, you know training and all that stuff and giving him all that stuff. And then now he said, this is your duty. This is what you got to do. This is what he'd been trained to do. A young man, he was, let's check his age, right? At the 1968, this happened. So he would have been 20 years old, right? 20 years old. Imagine being 20 years old, right? This guy being told to this is you went through the training, this is your company, you the Charlie company, right? And this is what you're going to do. You're going to go in there, you're going to you're going to kill anything that moves, right? Kill anything inside, yeah, cat, dog, man, woman, child, yeah. And then this is what he says. I shot that the lady and the little boy. He's about 2 years old. Imagine that. I mean, this is really dark stuff. But what's even darker? What's even darker is the fact that Dr. Michel Dow lied to these women, deceived them into taking birth control pills, abortifacient birth control pills that caused the death of babies, small boys and small girls, at literally 5 days after the conception, 5, 6, 7 days after the conception, right? 5 or 6 or 7 days, a young child died because of Dr. Michelle Dow, and she's loud and proud about it. And I'm the bad one for, I'm the bad one for talking about it. Like, hey, this is a direct order. I don't want to shoot no lady. He said, I'm giving you a direct order to shoot, and if you don't shoot her, then you can be shot yourself, right? So a 20-year-old, young man, right? He's in this position, right? And it ruined his life, right? It ruined his life, I'd be like, you want me to shoot some women and children? I'm not going to do that, right? But he did, right? I don't know about that. Yeah, let's kill him. Let's kill him. Yeah, the platoon leader said, well, I'm turning my back, so I don't see what you're doing. And this guy grabbed my rifle and to the heads of everyone else and put it to their eyes and just pulled the trigger. And it grew on, blah 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 blah, and kill everyone, right? So this is the whole idea about My Lai. And My Lai is extremely tragic if you don't know anything about that, but it's really bad. And then it's nothing in comparison to what I have here. What this whole channel is all about. Nothing. And then his 10-year-old son was killed by a random shot. Right. So if that's karma is a Kabbalistic thing, I'm not saying anything about karma. Right. Karma is a Kabbalistic heretical doctrine. Right. The whole thing about karma is from the Kabbalah, the Zohar. Right. So it's not about that. This is a random coincidence. And that he died in my arms, and I looked at him. And it was the same face like this. It was his face was like the same face of the child that I had killed. Imagine that. Imagine that. Your own son, dying. This is the punishment for killing the people that I killed. He said. And his daughter died of meningitis a few years before he committed suicide. Ah, I didn't know that. Okay, so he killed he certainly killed himself, and then he killed himself at the age of 48, right? So he shot people in the head, and he shot himself in the head, right? So, this is from the direct, the brain cannot process these types of images. It's too much, right? So, he says once you kill, it becomes easy to kill the next one and the next one and the next one. He said, look at that. Look what kind of pattern that we have here. We have Dr. Michelle Dow, and I'm sure it bothered her. I'm sure at the start, because I can't accept my own family, saying, oh, this doesn't bother me. But once you kill, it becomes easy to kill the next one and the next one and the next one. He said endless nightmares about the children killed by him and others, and he suffered constant tremors. Tremors. Yeah, we got tremors here. What do we got? The tremors here. He's always, shaking and shaking and shaking and everything like that. He's talking about that, but I mean, he couldn't accept, I couldn't accept anything like that, but I would never do that kind of stuff. I would most certainly die prior to killing, innocent people. I would never do that, right? So that's why maybe it's incomprehensible to me that, this kind of thing could actually happen. I didn't know that about his daughter had meningitis. Anyway, Varnado Simpson Jr., right? The loser killer guy who got ordered to go to the army, and the Vietnam War was absolutely terrible. But this guy's a loser, right? He lost. He lost on the on his chance, right? He has one chance for a life, and this is what he did. He killed people, right? He's got this booklet or whatever. Let me see this booklet here. Right? And he keeps all his records inside of his book. See, he's got all the people that he killed are in a picture in his book, and he keeps as a keepsake, and keeps traumatizing himself until he kills himself at 48 years old, right? Because after 20 years, okay, he's 20 years old. He gets the order to kill a whole bunch of people. He does it, right? And then now that's the end, right? You can't have a normal life after that kind of stuff. You can't, right? So, why does the greatest mass murderess, right, get to live like, with absolutely impunity and enjoy her grandchildren? It's so perverse, right? It's perverse, right? This person killed, he said he in his own admittance about 25 people, right? It's truly, barbaric and cruel. But in a whole career of prescribing hormonal birth control and running a clinic that you know that gets taxpayer funded abortions, right? That provides taxpayer funded abortions, right? This is there's no comparison, right? So it's interesting to make the comparison. It's interesting to make a comparison. I guess the video is a little bit about this comparison here. What do we actually see? We see this guy Varnado Simpson. Um, can't even come to terms with what happened in My Lai. But it's quite something. This is a very very interesting interview. But at the end of the day, what are we talking about? We're talking about all of us being losers, right? Losers, right? We live in a society where we accept abortions and we let these windbags talk, yak yak yak. And with these windbags are deceived windbags are talking on these podcasts, and we're all losers, right? For allowing that. There's another killer. And he's saying something. He killed a small boy and everything like that. And oh, I can't. Shut up. Yeah, what? Who's these baby killers, right? Well, I'll tell you who the baby killer is. She's my family, right? So Dr. Michelle Dow. She's a baby killer. I mean, this is a serious thing, a really serious thing.